What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at this 3D mockup I just added to my store. It's around about a 10 to 15 second animation of 4 items off my digital fashion pack. So if you want to purchase it and follow along with this video, head over to my site. It's currently available for $8. It includes Blender file, texture file, Photoshop files, the Limbic, and the Clo 3D animation. So once you purchase it, you're going to need Blender, which is a free 3D software. I'm going to be using Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, you can use Photopea. All of this will be linked below. And then for the bloom and aberration effects that you see off my store currently, I actually use K-Cycles, which is Blender, but there's a little bit of extra add-ons to it. It's about $54. You don't have to obviously use this. It's just to create some cool in Blender effects like so. So once you have all of that and you've downloaded it off my site, you'll be presented with your downloaded folder, which will include your Blender file, textures, open files, your designs, which is where we're going to adjust what the designs on the outfits look like, and then your Limbic exports from Clo 3D. So let's open up Blender. Once you've opened up Blender, you'll see that we have our 4 garments hanging. So for the scene, there's multiple different walls as well as trees, and there's only one light source. We have a rug down at the bottom here, obviously our hanger, and then our hangers and our garments. So let me just take you through the whole project file and how you can make it customized to yourself. So for those who have not so strong PCs, I suggest deleting this tree arm layer on the top right here. So you can just right click and say delete. This will speed up your Blender time, but you will also lose those cool shadows in the background. If you can't run it, just make sure to delete that. I think a majority of you might not be able to, so that's kind of the first thing you want to do if you don't have a high-end PC. I'm just going to bring it back for the purpose of this tutorial. What we're going to do now is adjust the garments and the rug. Those are both customizable, as well as the walls and the floor. So for the walls, this back wall, if you want to change the color, you can just click on the wall over here and then change the base color at the bottom here. It's quite simple, and just customize it and set it to whatever you want. So let's set it to my good old yellow color. So we're going to go with a wall color of yellow, and then for the floor you can also adjust that. It's currently a wood material, but if you want to change it up, what you can do is go over to your materials tab over here, just hit delete and then say new, and then you can rename this to, let's say, floor 2. And then if you want to adjust the color, you can also adjust it here. If you do have other materials, you can always add it in. I'm just going to keep mine as the wood texture because I think it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z to go backwards and undo, and let's set that floor back up. The next thing we're going to do is change the carpet. So I have this off-white branding here. So what we want to do is go back into our downloaded folder, select designs, and then look for the rug diffuse. So let's open up the rug diffuse, and we have our branding as is. If you want to change this to whatever you want, say you have your logo that you want to drop in here, or maybe some text, you can either use the text tool or just drag and drop your logo. So I'm going to be using the text tool. Let's write here OPOS, which stands for only possible on Solana. Let's scale this up, rotate it by 90 degrees, bring it in here, and you can either hide or delete this layer. We can then go up to file and hit save. And when we go back to Blender, it won't be updated, but what we can do is go up to our shader preview window and just click on one of these other circles. It can be anyone, and then go back to your material preview. And you should see that it will be updated from there. It might take a couple seconds, depending on your PC, just let it load, and it should be up to date. So there we have the new branding. If you want to change the color, you can do that as well. Just change the rectangle color here and double click on the layer, and you can change it as is. So let's make this yellow, and then let's change the text color to black and hit save. And let's minimize this, and let's do the same thing again. Perfect. I'm going to change the wall back to white. So you can just click on the wall, go back to color, and decrease the saturation and hue, and you should get that white wall back. And then for the garments itself, we're going to go back to our design folder, and each one of these designs is one of the garments. So to figure this out, you just want to open them all. So I'm going to select all and hit open, and it will automatically open up in Photoshop. So this is one of the hoodies. As you can see, it has the hood, and then this is your long sleeve. You got your sleeves over here. This is one of the t-shirts, and this is your other t-shirts. So let's adjust these. It's quite simple. If you've checked out all my other videos, it explains this. So for our color of the garment, we're just going to double click on the rectangle tool, and just for display purposes, I'm going to just adjust this to the color of the logo. And then let's just do this to all of them. So let's click on the rectangle tool, and then this one we're going to keep as is. So once you've made your designs and dropped your logos in, you can save all these files. So let's go save, 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 and save. We can go back into Blender and refresh that preview. And once you refresh it, you should see everything has been updated, which is great. So once all our garments have been updated, you'll see the colors will change and your branding will change. Just to make sure our texturing is all good, we're going to go up to the middle here, click on the edit tab button and go to shader editor. And we're going to change the normal map and just make sure this isn't red. So if we click on UV map and click on UV, it should all be updated. And then if for some reason these aren't linked, so the easiest way to see this is just zooming in and checking if you have textures. Depending on your sample rate, you should be able to see it. So it looks like there isn't any texturing there. So we're going to relink this. So let's click open image, go to textures and look for the normal map. And you'll see just like that, it's been updated. And then for your roughness map, we're also going to click the open image and go to textures and look for roughness map and open that up. Then we want to set your color space to non-color, as it isn't a graphic node. So let's set those to non-color, and you should get a more realistic look after that. Once you're happy with that, we can now go to our output settings. So let's go to render properties. Make sure you are at about 128 to 300 samples. If you have a more intense PC, you can obviously go higher. But people with lower end, I'd suggest somewhere around the 100 mark. And then we're going to go to output and we're going to set the resolution. So this specific mockup is designed for vertical renders. But obviously if we change these and flip them, so let's go 1920 by 1080, you can see that we still have the entire scene and it still looks pretty good. The only thing is you're missing out on the floor, but I'll show you how to change that now. So for render settings, you can set that up as is and make sure your start frame is at 1 and your end frame is at 375. And then for your output, we're going to select our desktop. So I'm just going to go create a folder called renders and click on it and say render 1 and hit accept. And then if you want to export in video format, make sure it's on FFmpeg video. And then go to your encoding. There's a little custom preset button here, H.264 and MP4. This will export in as a video, but I prefer to do PNG just because if your PC does crash, you can always restart from that frame. So say it crashes at frame 25, we can just go start frame at 25 and then carry on the render. So I'm going to set mine to PNGs, keep as is, and we should be good to go. Now to render this out, we can go up to the top left, hit render animation, and it should start to process the render. Now to check your render times, it will give you a render time or estimate on the top left here after the first frame is done. So me with the trees and all of that, it's probably going to take around a minute to render at 128 samples, maybe a little bit less. Let's see what happens. So here's a good example. I'll get this often, is there's no garments there. And this is because in our layers tab, the garment doesn't have the camera turned on. So make sure everything that you want to be seen in the render, the layer has the camera on. So obviously this cube is just an atmospheric node, so you don't need to worry about that. That can be off, but just make sure all your objects are visible. Once it's on, we can go back to render image and should now render out the entire image for you. Okay, once it has rendered out the frame, you should see everything set up and perfect. You'll notice here that the first 3 frames were without the garment, so it rendered that. So to restart your render, you can just go to your output settings and change it to 1 and it should start back over at 1. So you can see here in your render folder that it's gone to frame 4. So for example, if it does crash at frame 4, you can start at frame 5. It's numbered over here. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to adjust the camera position. So let's go to our 3D viewport area and go over to our camera. Now, you want to make sure that the movements of the camera starts at your first frame and ends at your last frame. So for example, let's click on the camera here. So we can press G on our keyboard followed by Y just to bring the camera back a little bit so we can see the rest of the frame. Just like that. That looks pretty good. And then our end frame, we want to go to frame 375, and we want to reposition this last frame so that it fits our new output settings. So once we're in there, we can see it's a little bit higher. So let's press G followed by Z and bring that down. And just like that, we now have adjusted the camera angle, and we have a more fitting 1920 by 1080 output for our video. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to create that gloom effect in K cycles. So we can just close this up. If you do want to save what you've made and change it over to K cycles, you can do that. Let's open up K cycles, and we're going to go File, Open Recent, and say Hang a Mockup. Let's go to our material preview, and then we're going to go to our output settings. And this file actually should have it all set up already, because I've already got settings in place. But all your settings are going to be over this post effects little tab. So you can just open up this, and we're only going to be using your bloom and flares. So my bloom is going to set to 1.25. My bloom level is going to be set to 2.5. Glare and anamorphics is going to be at 0.15 and 0.6. These are the only settings that I did change. And when you render it out, you should get something like this, which I think looks really cool and it's a little bit more artistic. The next video I'm going to be dropping is going to be how I created the scene completely from scratch in Blender. So for those who don't want to purchase it off my store, you're welcome to subscribe and stick around for the next video to see that. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end. I really appreciate it. For those who want to get this item for free, make sure to drop a comment below and post proof in the Raise channel. It's in my Discord. First 10 people to post proof will get this product for free, so make sure you do that, and obviously hit subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you guys do need any help, make sure to join the Discord. I really appreciate those who purchase my stuff. Thanks so much for 1K, really do appreciate that, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.